Draw Every Day with JJK.
Hey friends, welcome back to Draw Every Day with JJK. I'm JJK, which stands for Jarrett J. Krasoska. You can call me Jarrett, you may call me JJK. Either way, I'm so happy you're here again with me on Draw Every Day. This crazy experiment where we're coming on YouTube every weekday to talk to you about writing and drawing and cartooning, art. And this week is all about the school lunch lady and lunch dude. So you might have heard of the Lunch Lady graphic novels. I started these books several years ago, but did you also know that they inspired me to create a day called School Lunch Hero Day? It's an initiative I started back in 2013. And I work with the School Nutrition Association, and what we do on the first Friday of May, we celebrate all of the women and men who work at our school cafeterias. We use art to bring joy. We create things, creative projects to make people feel validated and lift spirits. It has been so amazing to see what folks have done. So before I tell you about how School Lunch Hero Day came, I kind of have to tell you how Lunch Lady came to be. So if you haven't heard of these books yet, let me share some pictures with you. The Lunch Lady series is about a lunch lady that is secretly a crime fighter. She's a mild-mannered lunch lady who speaks in food puns. She cares very much for her kids. There's Hector, Dee, and Terrence. And the three kids who have breakfast at the school, they end up catching on that their lunch lady, along with her assistant Betty, is secretly running a crime-fighting operation, serving and protecting all of the students every single day. Her assistant Betty invents things like the spatchicopter. It's a spatula that turns into a handheld helicopter, and she keeps track of the entire school, and in every book there's some nefarious villain that's coming up with some ridiculous plot to do things like take down the bake sale or replace all of the teachers with evil robots. She has a spork phone to communicate with Betty. So these three kids, right, they catch on that their lunch lady is secretly a crime fighter. They help with the mission. Well, it looks like today's special is a knuckle sandwich. So look, she has, I love this one. This is my favorite gadget. She has fish stick nunchucks. They're nunchucks that look and smell like fish sticks. Now, at the end of every book, sorry, spoiler alert, her assistant Betty takes out the hairnet net and captures the villain and proclaims justice is served. Now, again, if I spoiled the book for you, I'm sorry. This book has been out since 2009. And yeah, I understand. Some of you weren't even born yet in 2009. You'll still be able to enjoy the book either way. Now, these books, I traveled the country with them, and I met a lot of women and men in school cafeterias who were working so hard. But did you know that these books were actually inspired by the lunch lady I had as a kid? Okay, so I was a kid. Went to Gates Lane School in Worcester, Massachusetts, kindergarten through 8th grade. Grew up to get books published. When my very first book was published in 2001, I returned to Gates Lane School. And when I was there, I ran into Miss Jeannie and Miss Betty, the lunch ladies that were there when I was a kid. They were still working at the school. I got to chatting with them. And Jeannie told me all about her grandkids. And that blew my mind. I thought, grandkids? You have grandkids? Like you mean to tell me all these years, at the end of the school day, you leave the building and you go home? Like you don't live in the kitchen with the serving spoons and the spatulas? I'd never thought about that before. Well, that chance encounter inspired my imagination. And this is how stories begin. This is how books begin, where something in reality triggers your imagination and you begin to brainstorm. It might be something you experience, it might be something you overhear. And so I started thinking about the secret lives of lunch ladies. And I wrote a picture book, not a graphic novel, but a picture book about kids who would sit at their lunch table and they would debate what they thought their lunch lady would do with herself after school. And every character had a different idea. Maybe she was a taxi driver or an opera singer, but one kid thought maybe she's secretly a spy. She keeps the school safe. She's secretly a crime fighter. Now that to me was the more interesting story to tell, but that was not the story I sat down to write. But again, that's the thing about creativity. You have to be flexible. You have to be willing to make changes. And I thought, okay, this isn't the story I thought it was. This is now a different story because idea A leads to idea B, idea C, D. You keep on going until you get to that one idea that, okay, this is what the book needs to be. But then I realized it's no longer a picture book. It's a story about heroes versus villains and mysteries that would need to be solved. And I wasn't quite sure what kind of book it would be. But I kept sketching out the characters over the years and realizing soon that there needed to be more characters in the book too. So I invented her sidekick Betty and Hector, Terrence, and Dee, those three kids who have breakfast at the school. And then it wasn't until I revisited some comics that I'd made as a fifth grader. You see, I was working on this anthology where my contribution would be looking at childhood artwork and updating it for this new book. So I found Lightning Man, this comic that I made in the fifth grade. And as an adult, I continued Lightning Man's story, and I remembered how much I loved making comics and what you can do with the action and the storytelling and the visuals. That's it. Lunch Lady needs to be a graphic novel. I put together a pitch. A pitch is like just a couple pages of ideas on what you think this book will be. I sent them to my editor at Random House. They loved the idea, but they had no idea what to do with it because graphic novels for kids weren't a thing. This was 2006. Look, I wrote this book series so long ago. When I pitched it, I wrote about it on my MySpace blog. And you can ask your grandparents what a MySpace is. They might still be friends with Tom. It's a mid-2000s joke. You wouldn't understand. At any rate, eventually, a publisher picked up the book. It was published in the summer of 2009. And as is often the case, I celebrate in my hometown of Worcester. We had a big launch event at the Worcester Public Library. And do you know who was in attendance? My old lunch ladies, Jeannie and Betty. Couldn't believe it. At the event celebrating, Jeannie was, she was signing autographs. I tell you, her penmanship was gorgeous. And I presented them with artwork. I made artwork of the characters. I gave them books. Everybody there gave them a huge round of applause, a standing ovation, a room of 200 people they had fed over the years. Well, I would later learn just how meaningful that event was to them, how much they appreciated being thanked. And it made me realize that so often this is a workforce in our nation's schools that aren't getting thanked enough. So that is where School Lunch Hero Day came from. I partnered with the School Nutrition Association, and they informed me that, some people don't like the term lunch lady. They might go by school chef. They might go by school nutrition professional. They might love being called lunch lady. So that's where the term School Lunch Hero Day came from. So we can make sure we were celebrating everybody and using language that everyone felt respected and appreciated. So over the years, people have made amazing art projects to thank their school lunch staff. Now, this school year looks very different from other school years we've had. And that doesn't mean we can't celebrate School Lunch Hero Day, because we certainly can. Because those school lunches are still being served all over the country. And let's this week think about what we can do on the first Friday of May, which is this Friday on School Lunch Hero Day. How could we safely share our thanks through art? And could it be that we draw our lunch lady as a superhero? Do we share that artwork? Do we ask our grown-ups to share it on social media? Or do we ask our grown-ups to share it through email? Or do we make posters and hang the posters on our house? Or do we make signs for our lawn? Or do we make signs on our cars? There are so many possibilities still to be creative. So I'm going to teach you how to draw my lunch lady character. Before I do, though, let's check in with those pugs. It's time for Pug Cam.
Oh, who's your good pug you are? You sleeping? Oh, I think Frankie's awake, but Ralphie, Frankie, Ralphie's sleeping. He's sleeping. Oh, I think we woke him up. Say, oopsies. Oh, I love you guys. You're the best. I love you.
All right, thank you, Pugs. Now I'm going to get out my materials here. I have my paper, I have a pencil, I have some watercolors, I have my ink. And I'm going to start, as I always do, by finding my shapes. When I draw my lunch lady character, I draw an upside down teardrop and then a regular ended teardrop. Now remember, this is the gesture sketch, a quick sketch in which I'm trying to figure out the pose of the character. Now, I want this character to be standing heroically. And the way that I've drawn the character now, it kind of looks like the character's slouching. That isn't the body language I want to use. So because I just drew these quick shapes, I can very quickly make some changes. I'm going to erase that torso shape, and I'm going to draw a teardrop shape that's feels more confident. I'm going to sketch out the hair, the facial features, the clothes. And I'm going to have that apron blowing in the wind. And I will dip my brush into the ink and draw the finished line work. Lunch lady's hair has a lot of bumps, like a big old perm. Comes in at a big point right there. It's almost like a big triangle on top of that upside down teardrop. Then I will put my initials down at the bottom. JJK. So I'm going to add color now. Now the Lunch Lady books, the interior is published with limited color, just black and yellow ink. And that's because they were first published at a time when no one was quite sure how graphic novels would do. So the publisher wanted to limit the color palette, and it works out really well in regards to the vibe and the feel, but it was so important what color we chose. And you know why we chose yellow? Because of those iconic yellow dishwashing gloves that are, those rubber dishwashing gloves. Now, I gave my lunch lady character brown hair. Initially, she was going to have red hair because she was inspired by my old lunch lady. But when these books became predominantly yellow, I didn't like the way the red and the yellow looked next to one another. So I gave the character brown hair. And there you have her, my lunch lady character. Now the challenge is up to you. I'd like to see how you draw your lunch ladies or lunch dudes as superheroes. And we're going to be celebrating lunch ladies and lunch dudes all week long. And I received some more wonderful fan art for Jedi Academy. I'm going to collect the Jedi Academy art, and I'll make a separate video celebrating all of those amazing artworks that were created, because you all blew my mind as you continue to have done every single week we've done this. But for today's show, I'd like to end by sharing with you some of the amazing creative projects that people have created for School Lunch Hero Days in the years past. Maybe it'll get your imagination going. Maybe you'll see something that makes you think, I can see something there and take something and run with it and create my own thing that is going to celebrate the school lunch staff in my community that is continuing to work every day in the school cafeterias and bringing school lunches to the communities. So go lunch ladies, go lunch dudes. Let's use art to bring joy and make people feel appreciated. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Please click like and subscribe and keep drawing. See you soon.